Welcome back, everyone, to our continuing adventures on the Let's Defend platform. Today, we are taking a whack underneath the SOC analyst path for SOC191, SCR Hijack detected. EventID's 141, type is malware. High classification, and dated April 28th, 2023 at 07:36. Unwelcome visitors at the front door. Hooray. Anyways, okay, so getting back into the swing of things. We have on the hostname Alexander what looks to be a dropped SCRNSAVE.EXE. Looks like it was, okay, PowerShell script best _ screen _ savers _ installer. Well, obviously nothing bad can come from this. Device action was allowed. Trigger reason. .scr file executed from non-standard locations, which more than likely would probably be downloads, as it looks like it probably would have dropped it. Let's see. L1 note. When I contacted Alexander, he informed me that he tried to change his screensaver using a PowerShell script that he found on the internet. Really? I mean, I understand that Windows constantly changes where to sit there and find this stuff, but it did not work, and now his computer is running slow. Oh, Alexander, what are we going to do with you? All right, so we are going to go through and source address, nothing there. Destination address, nothing there. We just can't select all? Raw log? So apparently we're just not going to find anything that's there. But that's okay. Let's verify that Alexander actually does have. Yes. Okay. And I know it's going to make this a little bit more difficult to see, but I'm going to have to basically back this off. Okay, browser history, file transfer packages, iStock photo, Unsplash. Download screensaver. Google search. And are these in some semblance of order? Oldest at the bottom. Cool screensavers. Oh, jeez. Okay, terminal history. Again, going bottom up. So let's see. Get execution policy, all signed. Set execution policy, scope, process, bypass. Running the PS1, which then apparently turns around to take a look at HKey current user, control panel, desktop for screensaver.exe. It just repeats the same commands. If, get execution policy. No, same thing as the ones on the bottom. That's odd that we didn't get anything on the perimeter for logs. Although maybe the system is not, or like split tunnel or something along those lines. So we've got to rely on the actual EDR agent on the host itself for our details. And just to confirm, is it bottom up or is it, no, it's top down on this one. So we get Explorer, we get PowerShell where it does the thing. It checks it. We get the SI host. Cortana, and then we get run 32. So I mean, everything that's talked about matches. This is April 28th. I know there's no mention of any sort of email. We're able to confirm by the internet history that they went through and did what they really weren't supposed to do. Although what I find is odd is we don't see at any particular point that SCR. Actually, no, what if we do? I mean, we do see the run 32 basically kicking off for the desk.cpl at the screensaver. So it is probably, I would assume that this is going to kick off because of the dropped SCRNSAVE.EXE. And for those that are the youngins in the audience, so SCR is basically screensaver files, but for simplicity's sake, you could just consider them just about the same as an exe file. So realistically, if you run across it, during the course of investigation, everything else like that, you would treat it with the same amount of suspicion as you would an exe file, a bat, com, VBS. It sticks out because most people, and I may stand corrected on this later, but I don't think there's a lot of screensaver use anymore. I mean, we've kind of reached the point where the automatic power off is just good enough, where the screens just go black, or the backlight turns down, so you're using less electricity. Not really a need for pointless animations if the screen's powered off and there's nothing being displayed to it. So, but yeah, so this looks like there's definitely something kind of conking around on the inside. What was I going to do? Threat intelligence. I was going to take a look and see as to whether or not if there was anything about a screensaver. Doesn't really look like it, at least in the first couple of pages. So, okay, so we don't know for a fact that there is anything wigged out with this. I mean, the fact that you had to sit there and download a PowerShell script to kick the stuff off, that doesn't really sit there and give me the warm and fuzzies. But this would also be the aspect, okay, what does corporate policy say? User or accepted user policy. User accepted policy? UAP? AUP? I guess it depends on the organization. So effectively, what is approved use? Is effectively downloading unknown code and executing on your box something that is accepted policy? More than likely not. So without really having an full idea of the scope, I'm just going to call this out because this just looks bad, and not to be an arse hole in regards to this. Sorry, but you broke what would be generally considered accepted use. We now need to be concerned that your asset is compromised, so while we investigate, we're going to take an abundance of caution, and we're going to isolate this sucker, because we don't know what else is going on here. Granted, we have what shows up in the process tree, network action, all the rest of that stuff, but we don't have the whole story. So, because of that, we are going to take an abundance of caution. And if you push back, that's fine. I'm willing to bet my manager goes higher up than yours. that might be another aspect. I know that it's not something that's generally talked too much about, but there might be points where, obviously, it will depend on your management, everything else like that. But effectively, if they have your back and they are willing to sit there and, you've proven that, you don't just jump off the handle with everything. There is nothing absolutely wrong, as long as it's the case, of you taking corrective actions like this without having the full story, as time is of the essence. Now, maybe you have a SOC manager that plays the political games and is basically just looking to, okay, do my time as a SOC manager and then move up. Or I don't really want to do this. I want to be a system admin or something along those lines. They're basically just, they filled a hole and they've got a promise of moving elsewhere. Okay, by that particular point, you might want to be a little bit more cautious, dot your I's, cross your T's. But thankfully, the positions I've had, management has had my back. They realize that, okay, at a certain point, you've got enough experience that when you get the tinglies in the wrong places, or the in the gut, you kind of tend to listen to it because, I mean, of all things, the one good thing to come out of having the bigger brain and being a mammal is pattern recognition. You may not be able to explain it, but you see it, and for whatever reason, just in the pit of your stomach, no logical reason, although probably maybe somewhere in the subconscious, it's just like, oh, this is bad, or this looks bad, before we've even reached the whole aspect of, processing it in the frontal lobe and working its way back. But it is what it is. So you may see me go through and approach it this way. Obviously, you're going to want to tailor as to whether or not your management is behind you. They are willing to go to the bat for you. Because just because I've been lucky doesn't mean that everybody's going to be lucky. And I hate to say that. You would think in a perfect, or at least a better world, they would realize, okay, you're here to do a job. You know what it is that you're trying to do. You know where the guardrails are, you know where the big red line is, and you know not to be stupid and go across it. You're not going to just arbitrarily, without a very good reason, take somebody in the C-suite and just lock down their device. Of course, my funny thing was always the aspect of certain place I worked previously, being a multinational org. They would take work assets and they would have personal adult time. That's the best way I can put it, with the work assets. And just not something. Oh, interesting. I just got booted out of remote desktop. Hang on, let me try it again. But yeah, so you wouldn't take those, workstations that you find that stuff, and that puppy's tearing ass around behind me. Can't connect to the remote host for any reason. Failed to connect to server. Huh. I broke it. I done did broke it. Okay, terminate it. I'll try it again. Anyways, so you would find out as to where those red lines are. You wouldn't cross them. Although, trust me, the first time I observed that, the first thing I wanted to do was basically just do a quick investigation, get the relevant evidence together, and basically kick it off to HR and be like, hey, we got obviously misuse of company assets. That was the first impulse, and then I was told, no, it's a little bit different over in Europe. The company had decided that we're just going to allow this because we just don't want to have to deal with it, because we don't really want the whole aspect of talking to our supposedly adult employees about, proper use of work equipment. Okay, they made the call. They filtered down, and it became a red line that you do not cross. So effectively, all the waffling just to say, learn the ins and outs of your organization before you just flippantly go across and start quarantining boxes. The long and the short of it. And still waiting for this new one to come up. So I'm going to go through, do a pause, and we'll pick back up. Okay, that one worked. So we are back inside. And our biggest thing is we want to see about trying to find that stupid screensaver file. Oh, there it be. Puppy, I would appreciate it if you just would not. Yeah, you don't care. Okay, that's fine. All right. So we're going to do the I don't know what I'm looking at. I know it's virus total. I don't know what language that is. And I'm assuming the one that it's trying to translate to is Turkish? Possibly? Alright, so we're just going to do the needful, typical approach. Let's just take it and let's run the unknown stuff through the AVs. Because they're not huge. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's really bad. I'm assuming they're asking for bicycle. I mean, I guess this is one way to learn a language, right? I'm assuming that says fire hydrant, maybe? There's like 1 pixel right there. Okay, we're looking for cars. So, Araba? I mean, that's the front of a car, but it's not a whole car. But then again, that's the back of a car, not a whole car. Yay. Okay, so now we have a portion of the story. We don't have the whole story, but we have a portion. So let's just confirm C users, let's defend downloads. Okay, best screensaver. And then we have the SCR Saver 3000. Okay. And this is for the PowerShell script. Here's download a zip from a specific URL and run it on the local system. And of course, the big one, which looks like it was a Metasploit. Or at least that's what it's getting. No, Cobalt Strike. Oh, hooray. Yeah, we're nuking this sucker. Just full blown, just nuke it from orbit. I don't care. I was going to say we need to go through and try to figure out where the stuff came from, but this should tell us. Hello, hello. That's where it came from. So I guess technically we have a couple of different other aspects I need to cover as well. Because we have the zip file. Not that I really expect that the zip file is going to change much of anything. So it goes out, it hits US East 2 from Amazon AWS, pulls down SCRNSAVE.EXE, it extracts it utilizing 7-zip. Wow, I wonder what would happen if 7-zip didn't exist on the host. And then it looks like it just dumps it in. Sets it as a screensaver. Oh, now I gotta try to remember. Because this is the problem, that everything just seems to constantly freaking change with Windows as to where they dump this stuff. I want the screensaver. And I unfortunately just don't effing remember. Was it personalized? Was it change screensaver? Now Sentinel-1 wakes up. But that's good. I mean, but the real question is, okay, why wouldn't enforcement mode be turned on? I mean, that's really my questions. Okay, so we've confirmed that that run DLL code that we observed in the process tree of des.cpl screensaver add screensaver was basically the setting of the SCR saver 3000 as. I guess it's a good thing that, we're just on a virtual host because we're just causing all manner of F around and find out. And we are definitely finding out. So we've at least been able to go through and confirm that yes, screensaver is indeed set. We've been able to confirm where it came from. So, hooray, I guess. Just for completion's sake. Oh, yeah, okay, that's not a big surprise. You might be sitting there thinking, okay, why is that not a big surprise? That none of the engines detect the zip file. Because if we go back to the portion, it is password protected. Granted, with the standard password of choice for all this stuff, dealing with malicious samples infected. You'll see that across for, I believe, just about everything. It's the standard for Let's Defend. I believe it is the standard for CrowdStrike when pulling down a file by RTR. It is, I believe, the default password for the abuse.ch, like the malware bazaar. I think maybe it's also the same thing for VX Underground as just the default password that's generally used when dealing with any sort of sample. So that's why I'm not surprised that the zip file itself did not sit there and flag anything. Although I'm more left scratching my head as to why Sentinel-1's not in enforcement mode for this particular host, that it allowed this stuff to go through. So that would probably be another aspect to bring up is Why do we not have enforcement mode turned on? Why are we not blocking? Why are we not taking action? I get it. Stepping out. Sentinel-1, if we had CrowdStrike, if we had Cyber a lot of these things would pick up on this stuff and stop it. So I understand as to why, big picture, why it's turned off or not enforcing in this particular aspect. Because if it does its job right, sure, you get a notification that the end user, probably needs to go and have their hands slapped. Not to the extent of, okay, we're just quarantining your box, we're going to nuke and pave it, and you're going to rotate your passwords, and we're going to sign you up for more, security awareness training, because we need this to tell a story. We need this to, do, well, actually, we need it not to do something, which is its job. Detect malicious file, everything else like that, but yet it does not give us anything else. No full-blown details or anything else like that. I just love to see the back end of this. Oh God. Yeah, because if it's connected, oh, I feel sorry. Whoever's the legitimate security person, not in the platform, but for the platform, if they're monitoring the Sentinel-1 portion and it's actually flagging alerts, they've got to hate it when this stuff comes through. Oh. What's up, pup? I'm gonna get my hand slapped. So in case you missed it, I basically just highlighted the screensaver file and I just wailed on the enter key. Yes, I'm an ass. I know. Oh. File transfer.io. Because I believe this will restore what we were looking at. Oh, I mean, it's gone from the server apparently, or the service. So at least there's that. And we've been able to confirm. So yeah, we can consider the host effectively compromised. So we're going to terminate the VM to not cost Let's Defend any more resources. Although I'm sure they're probably not too happy with me just wailing on the keyboard. And now I'm really hoping I did the transition so that all that stuff was showing up. Ah, crap. Well, okay. So I guess let's do this, just out of an abundance of caution. Just in case I did not hit the transition button and you did not get to see the actual RDP. The alert that we got did confirm that there is a PS1, so the best underscore screen underscore savers underscore installer.ps1 was in the user's download directory, along with an SCRSaver 3000.zip and .scr. And so what I did is basically just upload them to VirusTotal, since I know for a fact that this is coming through. So the PlayStation, the PowerShell script doesn't flag any engines. Although I do like the fact that crowdsourced AI at least picks up that, okay, something is sus, considering the fact that it And we confirmed, looking at the PowerShell script itself, that it reaches out to AWS, pulls down the SCR file as the zip, sets the password parameter as infected, and then goes from that particular aspect. It performs the extraction, kicks the stuff off in terms of going through and actually setting the SCR3000.SCR as the active screensaver for the system. And at least when I was taking a look at it, it's set for 1 minute. Then of course, the zip file, which is password protected, ergo why nothing picks it up. And then the actual screensaver file itself, which is literally just a Metasploit backdoor. So let's see the big three. So yes, we get Sentinel-1 has a problem with it. Cybereason has a problem with it. CrowdStrike's got a problem with it. Okay? And if we were not using next-gen, the big players, Bitdefender, okay, good. ESET, yes. Kaspersky, yes. Although hacked, but again, the major engines you may look at when utilizing VirusTotal could be entirely different. I mean, if we wanted to as well, we could go through and we could take that PowerShell script and we could dump it into triage. We could dump it into any.run. We could dump it into hybrid analysis. We could dump it into, if we had access to, VRay or VMray, Cisco's Threat Grid, assuming they still have the product. Any of the stuff that we would still have. I mean, hell, if we had the full Falcon platform, we could just detonate it in the Falcon sandbox, which is effectively just a fancier version of the hybrid analysis. You could set up a Cuckoo sandbox and basically just run the stuff, or you could just take it, plan it on your own, Windows 10 VM and detonate it with whatever tools you're going to go through and use. But I think we're good here. I mean, I do have it denoted as to where the file came from, where it was hosted, so we'll have the full URL where the thing pulled down. The file transfer.io is gone. The link to it, but the package is, or the PowerShell script is gone from that. But we'll still have hashes that we can derive from this for basically stuff to set up further alarms in case anybody else has got the bright idea to, let's find a PowerShell script to change our screensaver. So I think we've got everything we need to basically just beat the ever-living crap out of this. Connect the machine, to which we did. Verify that the alarms escalated from Tier 1 to Tier 2 should be caused by a truly harmful event, but escalated alarms by Tier 1 analysts are not always true positive due to technical inadequacy, faulty, incomplete analysis, and authorization problems. This is true. For initiating incident response process, please verify that the alarm from the Tier 1 analyst was caused by malicious activity. Though I'm fairly certain this is a SOC analyst path exercise as opposed to the incident responder. Oh man, did I mess that up? I'm fairly certain I signed in with the right account. But no, as I'm looking at it, it's SA, or not SA, but it's incident responder as the level. Which would explain as to why we have a Tier 1 note as opposed to just dealing with it. So maybe I signed in with the wrong account. Oh, this is why it's important, everyone, to go through and actually get enough sleep and make sure you have your coffee. Okay, hang on. Okay, transition over. We've gone from SA to IR. Apparently I signed in with the wrong account. No, it's the right account. Unless maybe my accounts got merged? Whatever. Because this should be my security analyst account as opposed to anything else, but whatever. Okay, so that determined as to whether or not true positive or false positive. True positive. Just in case anybody's wondering as to why I'm entering true positive, because we've got detection for Metasploit payload. Yeah, I'd definitely say that would be considered malware. Identify malware and its capabilities. Hmm. Hmm. Ah. I mean, it's Meterpreter. So I would consider it effectively a backdoor, because from there they can start doing whatever it else is that they would prefer to do. So I don't necessarily believe that's would be considered a remote access Trojan, although it would definitely have the capabilities. And then there's also the aspect we could consider it a Trojan because it presented itself as a screensaver, but in reality is Metasploit. So if it kicks off, more than likely there's a reverse shell that would go back. So we could almost consider it web shell. Given the situation that it presented itself as a screensaver, that there was everything was basically talked up in regards to screensavers, but in reality we got a Metasploit payload. I'm going to go the route of Trojan. Was it executed on the device? Yes, it was set as the active screensaver. Oh, and then initial access. Well, they... where's user best intentions but terrible security posture in this? I mean, it wasn't a drive-by compromise. They actively went out, searched for it, pulled it down. It's not phishing. It's not supply chain compromise. It's not an exploited of a public-facing execute or application. Or would it be phishing? I mean, they're not sending a message, but they are going through with the social engineering aspect of, hey, you want this bright and shiny screensaver? It's not VNC, it's not VPNs, it's not Citrix, it's, I guess, none. Term of the scope, risk the organization. Considering the fact that it would allow for basically that system being a beachhead, we're going to say critical. Method of attack and systems used. Well, at least as it sits right now, it's Alexander, because we've got an instance of Cobalt Strike / Metasploit on it. So the payload was executed. Is threat origin internal or external? Oh, no. Now here's the fun part with this. We know that it's external, but at the same time, you could also make a case that it's internal because Alexander did a not smart thing. Actively went out looking to sit there and change screensaver. So yes, there's a stronger case that it is external, but apparently our insider threat is Alexander, and apparently Alexander needs a reminder of, hey, this is work property. This is not your computer. You get to use this computer, but this is not yours. Knock it off. Were credentials compromised? We don't have any evidence to that fact, but given the fact that we don't have enforcement mode apparently running for Sentinel-1. Granted, we didn't get detections that, it dumped the, it didn't pull down Mimikatz and execute it or anything else like that. And I'm not entirely sure as to whether or not if there's a Metasploit module that's built in to basically mimic Mimikatz to sit there and be able to pull down even hashed values to go through and then brute force something along those lines. We would consider that that's possible, may not be likely, at least at this particular point. Sensitive data at risk. Depends. Anything that Alexander would have access to could theoretically be gathered up, zipped up, and then shot out the back door or out the window. Is there brand reputation impact? As it is right now? Maybe. I know that there are a number of organizations that track Cobalt Strike beacons. So all it would effectively take is somebody to monitor those particular feeds, see, hey, Let's Defend organization. There was a beacon out from an Alexander system. So we may decide that we're going to talk about that on InfoSec Twitter, or see about trying to, hey, are you guys aware that Cobalt Strike is beaconing in your environment? As it is right now, no. Is the possibility? Yes. And I mean, it would. I mean, if Let's Defend was some premier cybersecurity organization, they defend Fortune 10 companies, the big money. And something like that were to sit there and be discussed, and then it rolls over to the bigger portion of, I mean, I could just see the quote-unquote normie headlines, company that defends biggest Fortune 500s, Fortune 10s, Fortune 100s, whatever, Fortune 50s, hacked. I mean, it could definitely lead to it, but at least as it sits right now, no. Given the fact that we know that there is. Persistence. It's going to be event-triggered execution because it's the screensaver in order to make sure that that stuff is kicked off. It's not scheduled task, it's going to be event. So if no input from mouse, everything else like that, there's your event, there's 1 minute, kick off screensaver or SCRSaver3000.scr inside the user's downloads directory. Because if it was scheduled, then it would be okay at 7:01 a.m. on the upcoming Saturday, kickoff. and then every hour on the hour kick off. Well, no, this is the end user's got to leave the device alone. Privilege escalation techniques used in the attack. We didn't observe any, but then again, also, I did not go any further in terms of, because I was approaching this as a SOC analyst role. I'm going to say no. I know realistically I should probably go back to the endpoint and load it back up and start digging through. See if sysspawn's installed. Anything else like that. I mean, if anything, I would assume that it would just go through and do like input capture, but I thought I said no. Does the device need to be isolated? Yes, we've done that. So we back up evidence. Well, okay, we're not going to eradicate it from the system. We're just going to nuke and pave the system. You can't tell me that Alexander is important enough to have us go through and just triage the problem and not go through and just restore factor golden image and move on from there. How did the cyber attack happen? End user decided that they wanted a cool screensaver, found a PowerShell script that supposedly allowed them to do that. PowerShell script reached out to US East 2 for Amazon AWS, pulled down a password-protected zip file, extracted password-protected zip file, executed and set the attached, or the SCR file that the zip file contained at a duration of 1 minute for screensaver, and was basically confirmed to be Metasploit/Cobalt Strike. How well the staff management perform in dealing with the incident? I would say T1 did well. They escalated as opposed to just not. Although the whole aspect of the fact that it's SCR file and the fact that Alexander complained after being confronted that the system was slow, I would think it would be a quicker turnaround that, hey, something is wrong here. We need this escalated because this just sounds bad. It could be end up being a false positive, but the system's slow, and they executed a executable formatted file, this SCR file. Like I said, when at the start of this, treat them as an EXE. Staff management do differently next time incident occurs. Incident or anything of executable or SCR file, anything else like that, just immediately kick it up the chain. Do a warm handoff, so reach out to whoever's on call or available, be like, hey, I got this thing. I think time is more of the essence. Please, if you've got bandwidth, take a whack at this. Corrective actions to prevent similar incidents in the future. Oh, well. Can we prevent downloading of PS1 files at the perimeter? Can we prevent all execution of SCR files in the environment? Can we set up alerting for firing or for execution of PowerShell scripts on systems that generally would not see a need for it, so we can have quicker alerting and turnaround? I mean, because if I got, if there was like a 5-minute window, correlation of, hey, we have these three events, PowerShell script executing on a host that typically we don't see PowerShell execution. Execution of a screensaver file that we typically don't see, would be followed up by Sentinel-1, even though not in enforcement mode, of, hey, something malicious executed. So I would say setting those particular aspects up would be more portion. Of course, the biggest aspect, corrective action, turn Sentinel-1 to enforcement mode all across the board. Yes, you may have some funky stuff show up with your developers, assuming you have developers that are going to go through, play with code, and pop stuff out. Fine. You can sit there and kind of lower the sensitivity on theirs. Everybody else, though, I mean, we want this fine-grained. We want this. If so much of a speck of digital dust falls off of a threat actor, we want to know about it. Because hopefully it's going to be more than just a speck. It's going to be 3 or 4 specs, enough that you can correlate it to a story. So back to the whole aspect of PowerShell script execution on hosts that we typically do not see, much less something that is not said. Of course, execution policy should be hardened, if at all possible. The aspect of we got a SCR file magically popping up here, and then the Sentinel-1 execution, all that stuff together. Tell a story. What precursors or indicators should be watched for in the future to detect similar incidents? Back to the same aspect. Oh. True positive. Malware. I said Trojan. It was successfully executed. I said none. We're going to say critical because it's actual execution. That was event triggered. No observed privilege escalations. The device needs to be isolated. And then we're basically just talking about the lessons learned. Precursors. I guess we could set up something in the web filtering to alert us. Like keywords, screensaver. I mean, because we did observe that there were the Google results on the host for screensaver and I think download. So we'd probably want to take a look at that a little bit more closely and figure out what keywords we would want to put in the actual URL filtering that we'd want to put in. So instance of like free or screensaver or down. Well, no, we'd probably want screensaver and download or free or screen space saver. So basically just trying to go off the particular aspects. So maybe screen and saver and download or free or I don't know, awesome. Or totally not malware, I swear. Or totally not Metasploit, I swear. Artifact time. Okay. So we are going to have the URL, the full one, from US East 2 for Amazon AWS. We are going to have the MD5 of the PowerShell script, the password protected zip file, and the SCR file. So US East to AWS, PS1, zip, and SCR. All right, and what we pulled was the full URL from the PowerShell script itself. Then we got the PowerShell script, so we go details. We pop that in there, and we go to the zip file, and we grab the MD5 from there. And then we go to our SCR file, and we pop that in there. And so log management, we had nothing, right? Not a dang thing. Hmm. Yeah. So we're gonna count. So about 736. So we got internal. And how often does that come up? We got what looks to be internal. 172.31.31.63. So let's do that. Is that an internal device? No, apparently not. All right. So we're going to bring up the metaphorical first ones I'm going to search for because we've got an IP address. That might be something we might want to follow up on. Because this could be indicative of like command and control traffic. Oh, I haven't had enough coffee. Actually, yeah, I haven't even finished my coffee yet. So I guess I'm not overly surprised. I'm not, uh, rip roaring and ready to go here. Yeah. I forget, exchange.xforce. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that. Well, compute instance for AWS. But it does have enough aspects if we pull it up. Excuse me. Yep, I think we found our command and control traffic. I think we found it. So that's going to give us one more. So this looks like C2C. And we had one more aspect from that, didn't we? And we're just going to go ahead and duplicate the same three. And we will change the parameters just to verify. I mean, because if it comes back that it's a... Let me guess, it's... I thought there was only up to... Maybe it's 172.32 is where it ends. That's probably what we're running into. Right? Because you've got 10 dot whatever you've got. Yeah, so 10 to 10.255. Okay, class B, yes. So 172.31. So that would be an internal aspect. But the problem is we never got another system to show up on whatever 172.31.31.63 is. So if we go to log management and we just say, give me anything with that address. Nothing. 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 Raw log. Okay, so, but at least that's it. We've confirmed it's an internal one. I blame the fact of I just still not enough damn coffee. But I am working to change that. So it would be destination. Yeah, so none of the traffic is routed through our perimeter, which is good. So that means that effectively it was just off, which means the only place that we're going to find any sort of usable logs is going to be inside of here. So, given the fact that it's after compromise, even though I don't see an internal system with that, I would think that we would probably want to sit there and try to figure out, do we have, can we query the DNS server to find out, or the Active Directory server, DHCP server, do we have logs that we could go through, take a look, and could it tell us what 172.31.31.63 is in terms of another system? Because unfortunately, there's nothing here that I can use in regards to this. And I mean, really, the process tree stops at 740, but none of this here, at least to me, explains as to why it's trying to reach out to that particular address. So it's not C2C given analysis because it's a private internal. But by the same token, we probably want. Yeah, so this looks like a bunch of rats. Dang, maybe I should have selected rat as opposed to ngrok. Yeah, rat as opposed to Trojan, but yeah, so taking a look at the community post for the SCR file. So, okay, yeah, Kali Linux is executable because it follows the file template for x64 Windows. Suspect shellcode indicator. MSF Venom stager. And then, of course, we hit web shell, which was one of the options that was underneath there, too, in which I selected Trojan, just given the fact of where that stuff sits. Realistically, though, yeah, so Metasploit dropper payload. Not knowing exactly what the payload is at this particular juncture, yeah, looks like this was run already, maybe? Open it up in a new tab, please. And we'll take a look to see as to what the file hash is once the analysis loads. Yeah, it may not be signed in. One dot doc. That's not a PowerShell script. That's not a screensaver file. Unless it's this 123.exe that it's actually making the portion on. But yeah, okay, so that doesn't point out. I guess while we're here, let's take a look. Public tasks. It's going to want the MD5 again. So is there a public run of our screensaver file. There is not. Oh, I gotta go get signed in. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I guess it's a good thing that approach this, or change the approach to IR as opposed to just quick triage as a SOC analyst. Okay, so dumped the SCR file into integer just to confirm. Not that it's a giant shock. Yes, it is marked as generic malware. Tried to dump it into any.run, but because I have a free account, I can only get a 32-bit version of Windows 7. As such, the stuff will not run. And there is already a portion in hybrid analysis, which looks like it's from June, late June. Got pretty high scores all the way across, and then apparently it's in time for a refresh. But the biggest aspect is that had we not bothered to go through and take a look at the network traffic, we would have missed the CNC. And by taking a look at the sample that was already provided inside of hybrid analysis via matching hash, we can confirm again the 18.158.249.75. Which is exactly what we were digging around in and had found. That comes back as the command and control traffic point for that stuff. And then went through and just dumped it into triage. And the analysis is still going because I typically like to run these for 30 minutes just to see if anything else will shake out. But straight off the bat, with the static analysis, 10 out of 10 score, and labeled it Metasploit, which matches what we observed in the virus total results of 55 out of 71. Although, realistically, what doesn't detect this? Cronus, Baidu, Bitdefender Theta, ClamAV, Nano, Panda, Palo Alto, Webroot. I guess the biggest thing would be Palo. But just about everything else has something to say about it. So, okay. So I'll make sure to include the links when we go through this particular aspect, but rather than dig through the logs on the endpoint, we could have just taken a look to see as to whether or not if any of the variable sandboxes had this. Now, of interesting point, if this occurred and we were immediately responding, this stuff would not exist. Just because of the fact that I believe the analysis point was, yeah, June 27th. Whereas this fired off, let me go back to my notes, April 28th. So if this was actually the case it would be going, then we would more than likely be grabbing the sample and running it through the virus total and the rest of that stuff. So who knows at that particular point what this score would have been. Maybe it would have just been 3 or 4. Which would have caused obviously a little bit more investigation. But dumping it through the rest of the items, then obviously we still would have gotten the same thing that would have correlated with what we ended up seeing. The communications from the screensaver to that Amazon AWS address. Of course, then that begs the bigger question. I mean, what kind of, I don't know what other results might have been here at the particular time. Well, let's take a look at pulses. Abuse at Ngrok 4 months ago. 1 year, 1 year. Yeah, so there probably would have been a little bit of a build-up, so maybe it may not have been as filled out, but there would have been enough stuff that's there. IP mentioned in Twitter. Yeah, I would think there would have been enough stuff left over to really catch some attention. Even at the point that this was going off. But yeah, so I feel a lot more comfortable labeling it as C2C. Or actually, no, it's just C2. Command and Control. Which really downloaded a password protected zip file, extracted, and executed. Host has been isolated. Needs to occur. Nuke and pave host. All user passwords rotated. Security awareness training assigned to end user. Sentinel-1 enforcement turned on across the org. True positive. We'll just take the same story that we had there, and we'll close the alert, and we'll see what we get. Well, we didn't get the flag, so I'm assuming initial access method used in the attack. Oh well, 5 points. I don't even remember as to what I put down there, trying to sit there and put all this stuff together. But so there we go. A screensaver that wasn't a screensaver, that just ended up being a Metasploit payload, and leading to Alexander gonna have a bad couple of days. Because heaven help Alexander if he's remote. Because guess what? We need your system. And you need to come in because we need to sit you down and have a conversation. What would you say? Yeah, I do here, really. But no, it does kind of bring up the point of that users of these systems tend to get possessive, tend to think of it as their own, and they tend to forget, the whole thing of, okay, well, what exactly does the accepted use policy say? What did I agree to? It's more so the fact of, maybe they saw Bob in accounting and they had flying dollar bills or something like that. I don't know. And they're like, oh yeah, I need to find something cool for mine. And just went out and, you can't tell me that Alexander had malicious intent in mind. But the aspect of it does, unfortunately, lead to the aspect of the reminders of, hey, this is a corporate asset. You didn't pay for this. This is not yours. You use it for the purpose of business. Maybe some light personal stuff, but that doesn't mean going and finding weird code and running it in a PowerShell window or command prompt, or just downloading anything you feel like and installing it and running it. I guess it would have been the other aspect too. Do they have local admin on the box? If they do, then it's just like, okay, why even bother? Get them Chromebooks. Which may actually not be a bad way to approach it. Depending on what they've got to do. If everything is just all web, why not? Of course, you'd have to kind of rely on Google being the platform for the back end for a lot of the stuff. The like. Don't know if Sentinel-1 does, but CrowdStrike has an agent, I think, that goes on Chromebooks. Something lightweight enough to be able to sit there and plop on there. So I'm hoping it's, reasonably full function. I haven't looked at it. I just saw the release. Or was it LinkedIn or was it Twitter? I don't know. Whichever. I haven't seen anybody else announce it. So, that might be another option to take a look at. But, so, okay. There we go. That has been, apparently, for the incident response track, even though I'm signed into my SOC analyst portion. Because, yeah, it's... No, it wasn't bits, was it? Was that the last video I put out? Was the bits? July 29th? Yeah? Yeah, that would have been it. Interesting. Of course, I can't see the opening to that anymore. Did a write-up get published? No. So maybe there's something, maybe my accounts got merged? Maybe? I don't know, I guess I should probably try to sign in with the one that was being used for the incident responder role and see what happens there, or if it just entirely fails. But regardless, so that has been SOC191 EventID 141 type malware for April 28th, 2023, 0736. In regards to Scr Hijack detected. So what have we learned from all this? End user's gonna end user. Which, okay, it happens. People forget that, it's a corporate asset as opposed to their own personal computer. And SCR files realistically should just be treated like the EXE files that they really are. I'm sure the format is different. But effectively, it just breaks down to the same thing. Which kind of makes me wonder. I have HXD. I don't think that I have ever opened up a screensaver file inside of a hex editor to take a look at it. So I guess before we go, why don't we do that? So give me 1 second as I put this stuff together. And so, of course, the real question is it really a SCRNSAVE file in this particular case, or is it just an executable? I would say it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to determine that. But give me one moment. We're going to plop this in. Okay, so here we go. We have the supposed screensaver file, even though it's .exe, and this is after I pulled it down and extracted it. And we see the start. The first two sections are MZ, which are the initials for the guy that came up with the PE format, or EXE as we know it, portable executable. And of course, the follow-on of this program cannot be run in DOS mode, which is what you're always going to typically see, of course, and then we get PE. So it's usually MZ, this program cannot be run in DOS mode, and then at some particular portion PE, and then it breaks down from there. Payload. So at this particular point, I guess I really should find an actual, honest to God, screensaver file and open that up. Okay, and so I managed to go through and find the ribbons.scr inside of C Windows System 32 on the Windows 10 host that I'm sitting there using this on. And it literally, that's the top, the ribbons, as opposed to the screensaver. Again, starting in MZ, this program cannot be run in MS-DOS mode. PE, the same exact aspect that we observed with the SCR Saver 3000. .exe, even though it showed up as SCR. So they literally are executable files. Literally. At least as far as taking a look at the header inside of a hex editor for both. So there we go. Okay, I guess I won't be corrected. They are literally exe files, or I guess portable executable files, regardless. So there we go. We've done a dive, and we've hopefully all learned something. If not, well, I see the bursar on the way out, and you can get your money back. Anyways, so with all that being said, I will see everybody in the next video.